a question for Jennifer, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Jen, but when do you think it's realistic that you can get back to this community with a little bit more information from the department about particularly the contract and the future of the contract and any other options that might be out there?
Well, I do want to make it clear, and clearly this isn't an option for everybody, but if anybody wanted to bring an interpreter to any meeting, they obviously had that right to. What we are talking about here today is the department's financing, so to speak, of that service for other individuals. I don't have a good answer for you. I would think that there were a couple of people who I actually identified tonight that I'd like to talk to a little bit more, who had some very specific experiences and had some issues that I thought, in talking about the unique needs of the community that maybe some interpreters aren't satisfying. And I'd be interested to know, for my own edification, what some of those unique needs are, because I think that's where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. But I can't say, but I can tell you it will be a priority, along with all of my other priorities.
I know. Some of which we put on.
Does anyone else have a question for Ms. Jones?
Yes, there are a couple of people who have questions.
Can I say one more thing?
Tell me.
Hold on a second.
Hi, so I'm Trinidad Tejas. I'm communication access for the department, which is why I'm here. In some states, what used to be the Office of Minority Health has at other times been called the Office of Multicultural Health, and in very evolved states like Massachusetts, it eventually evolves into being the Office of Health Equity. And so it's a much more inclusive name. I apologize that our name is not as inclusive as we'd like it to be. I hope we'll get there. I do want to answer the representative's question, which was that coincident with this process, because I'm not sure when you planned this meeting, there was a letter written by Lori Johnstone to the commissioner, and we are already in the we responded that we will be setting up a meeting. So that would actually be the answer of when we would be sitting down to respond to some of the concerns that were raised. That's something that's in parallel to this. And so it just happened that the timing is at the exact same time. So we are still going to formally respond with that meeting with Susan Wolf Downs and Lori Johnstone.
As you mentioned, the key is education. The deaf community has many unique needs, and as we've said before, the community has a wide variety of individuals with great levels of education and background and special extenuating circumstances. I work with individuals who are an individual who's 19 years old, who's deaf, who has autism, and who functions at a first grade level. So an interpreter who works with an individual like that has to know how to provide appropriate and matching sign language communication access. So those are specialized needs, and I think, as has been mentioned, some of us here have things that we can share with you that would help enlighten you as to what these needs are. And I myself am actually not fully aware of what the department has to offer and how the department functions and how it's set up. So we have a lot to learn from each other and working together in partnership. This is Lori Johnstone. To respond to the comments that were recently made, The deaf community is getting together on June 1st for a large meeting that we are having, and it's actually going to be here on the campus in Sweeney Hall. Please, any of you are more than welcome to come to this meeting, which is going to be from 10 to 12 on June 1st.
Kathy Munch would like to ask a question.
So the business part of the meeting is 10 to 12, and we are actually having a lunch for the community later, so that the social part is 12 to 2. But we expect the business to take place between 10 and 12. Kathy Minch? I have a question. Yeah, not to put you on the spot. Can you update us on, through email to someone on the committee, I don't know who to be this, probably Lori, or Lori Meyer, or Terry Linehan. Can we get some kind of a progress report or where things are at so that we're not just waiting for some long period of time until it's all resolved?
Absolutely, and I think between Trini and myself and Joan Marcoux, I don't know if any of you know Joan, who works both with the deaf and hard of hearing community as well as the sight impaired community for the department. I think between the three of us, we can keep folks pretty updated. If I could get some emails of people to develop a listserv, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
In regard to you people talking about getting funding and stuff like that for art and everything else, do you have approval from the higher up, like governor thing there? And also another question is that if Lutheran get another contract, are you still going to be able to help her or what?
Well, let me answer the second question first. If it is found, and this is standard in any contract, and we would have to talk about what the standards for that would be, but if it's found that a contract is not meeting the department's needs, and by that I mean not meeting your needs, then the department has the right in a contract to sever or eliminate that issue. So I think what we need to do is look at whether or not the department, and of course, you know, I haven't heard anybody from Lutheran Social Services tonight, so, you know, we need to talk to everybody involved. But I think what we need to look at is, again, whether or not it's serving the community, and what we're hearing tonight is it isn't. And if it isn't, how do we sever that part of the services to better meet your needs? The first question about budgets. We are in the process, the House has actually passed its budget for the next 2 years. That budget not only did not increase the Department of Health and Human Services budget, but decreased it. The budget is now at the Senate, and the Senate has determined it's going to cut budgets even further by millions and millions of dollars. So that puts us in a predicament. I think everybody I know who works at the department would love to provide more services. There are not the ability to do that all the time. So unfortunately, that leaves us in a position of sometimes prioritizing services, and you know, that's not best for all.
So we should write our legislatures, right?
Absolutely.
We should write them letters all the time, every week.
I think the gentleman in the blue shirt had a question.
I want to tell you that a lot of the people who work for your department do an excellent job.
That's good to
Really
hear.
do their best. I want to talk to you about the contract that you gave out. I did not bid for that contract, because and I know Southeast, I understand, did not did either.
I don't know that.
To my knowledge, they did not. Maybe they did, but I'm not aware of it. But I can tell you that on review of your RPF, it became obvious to my company, and I think others, that only one company could win that contract. And that's who you ended up giving the contract to. But
I hope that's not the case.
that's my opinion.
I hope that's not the case.
It was a competitive bid and there was more than one vendor, but that happened before I arrived at the department. So I do know that.
Trini, could you just use the mic?
Just to answer that, there were more than one people who submitted proposals. It was before I arrived at the department, but it was done in a competitive fashion.
Yes, I don't disagree with you. It's just that the way it was written up, there was only one company that could possibly meet all of your requirements.
So I think one of the issues that we addressed in one of the letters that we responded to is just, we will be reprocuring at a point in the future, and part of that process is always to do this type of effort of engaging stakeholders and getting input about the needs that need to be met when you go through a RFP process. So we're aware now and ever more increasingly aware and interested in knowing specifics, and that's why we'll be meeting further to get more information as we go forward.
Well, I'm just a little concerned that,
Can we give you the microphone, Peter, just because somebody can't hear it? I'm sorry.
it sounds like maybe the changes were made with the interpreters. You said to, at the beginning, to reorganize everything and make it a little bit more simpler. It sounds like it was done to like cut money to make it so that would cost less. And I'm wondering if there's.
Isn't a bad goal.
Is there, which is a goal of the government. So I'm wondering, is there really political will to really actually make any changes where it might actually cost more money when you said your budget's actually going down?
As I said before, we have an obligation to serve all clients, irrespective of any access issues they have, whether that be physical disability, deafness, hard of hearing, language barriers, whatever those are. We have that obligation under federal law to ensure that there is complete access to the variety of services that we give, and we are committed to that. And I can tell you that as an attorney, I'm going to be advising that any failure to do that puts us at a litigation risk.
I think the gentleman with the blue shirt on the back row wanted to ask a question.
Me? No.
I already said something, I'm all set.
The guy behind him.
No, actually, no comment.
Okay. And was there anybody over here? No?
I think it's time probably for
Okay.
wrap up.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. I think we made some progress. I think the powers that be, the state representatives, Health and Human Service, they heard the issues, they heard the problems, and the Department of Education. So I have a very good feeling about tonight's meeting, and this is only the beginning. We will be back in contact with you. And Jennifer has already said that we're going to come to the luncheon in June. So you're going to be so sick of our face, you can't stand it. So thank you so much for having us and extending the invitation. Good night.